Welcome back to the channel, guys. It's time for an oddball review. We're currently sitting in a 2001 Lexus GS430. Broke college student spec. The owner, William, mentioned that he built this thing in college to just be a fun and reliable daily driver. Now it mostly just sits around while he's focusing on building his ND2 Miata. I've never driven a GS430. In fact, the only generation of GS I've ever driven and reviewed was the GSF. But I've always admired this generation of GS. It has very polarizing looks. Some people think it's absolutely hideous. I happen to think it has a really cool kind of JDM luxury vibe to it. And I always thought it would be the coolest thing to build a 2JZ turbo swapped 6-speed manual. Obviously, this is not that car. That would cost way more than what the owner Will did to this one, but he still did put some mods on this to make it feel special and to make it his. And of course, this is the GS430, not the 300, which means this has the 4.3 liter V8. But we've got some budget Megan Racing coilovers, front and rear Megan Racing sway bars, 18 by 8 inch wheels from the 3rd gen Lexus GS, with some Yokohama Advan Sport All Season Plus tires, upgraded polyurethane caster arm bushings, K&N Air Filter, this Recaro SPG XL bucket seat, which is definitely like 2 to 3 inches too low for me, a muffler and resonator delete for that beautiful V8 drone, and we've got some 20mm spacers up front and 30s in the rear for these wheels. Here's the thing though, this was originally a $47,000 car about 2 decades ago. Now you can pick these up for $5,000. And at the end of the day, you still get a rear-wheel drive, full-sized luxury sedan with a 300 horsepower V8, 325 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 rated at 5.8 seconds. It's a 3,700 pound car, and it only came with this 5-speed automatic transmission. Let's get the AC going here. I am boiling in this California heat. The interior holds up pretty well over time for a 25-year-old car. Soft, kind of tacky leathers, the wood trim on the center console and the shifter. And of course, it wouldn't be a $174,000 broke college kid spec GS430 without a massive crack along the entire length of the windshield. But I do like how ergonomic this interior is, physical buttons and knobs for everything. And it's just got that Lexus build quality. You know it's gonna stand up to the test of time. No paint fading off of the buttons, very few squeaks and rattles. The power tilt and telescope steering wheel still works. Switch for power mode. We do have the ability to go into 4, 3, and 2, but we're just gonna keep it in drive. Makes a pretty damn good sound, that's for sure. Outside of the drone at low RPMs, once you get this higher in the rev range, it actually sounds pretty good. Hell, let's drop it into 3. Oh, it automatically downshifted into 2nd. You know, the last old Lexus I drove was the LS430. I think that was a 2002. So same era, same period. Both cars were sold in Lexus dealerships at the same time. And I have to say, this car feels way more driver focused than the LS. Even though it's the same engine and it's still a pretty big and heavy car with a long wheelbase, this car actually handles a lot better. The front end response is much more immediate, less lazy. Of course, hydraulic power steering. It's tuned for comfort. There's a lot of assistance here. It's not heavy. It's actually a little bit lighter than I would like, but it's a Lexus. They're known to be as easy to drive as possible. This is a grandma spec luxury sedan, but it's actually not doing half bad out here. Part of that could be due to these Megan Racing coilovers, which are a very cheap damper, but I'm actually pretty pleasantly surprised. The body control is not bad. There is some bounce, as you can see there, going over that bump mid-corner, but this is way more dialed than the LS430, which was on stock suspension. There's a nasty glare from this windshield crack. 6,500 RPM redline for this V8. It makes a good sound, and actually it makes pretty good power as well. Decent low-end torque. Get that nice V8 burble, although in this one it's mostly drone. I wish this would actually let me choose my gear. I guess I could do that if I dropped it into second. But this is back when normal non-performance cars weren't really known for having paddle shifters or even shifting manually via the gear lever. Steering actually isn't terrible. There is some feedback coming through this hydraulic rack. And I know a lot of people have actually turned these GSs into drift cars. Obviously, it takes a lot of work to make it drift ready, but it's doable. This is actually way better than I expected. Going into this, I looked at the car, Megan coilovers, all-season tires. The thing is slammed, especially the rear. The paint's faded, and also just because of that LS430 I drove last time, which was super not confidence-inspiring in the corners. I had very low expectations for this, so I'm actually quite pleasantly surprised. See, it's actually handling these smaller bumps really well. Who thought? Megan racing coilovers on a GS. It maintains really good ride comfort also. Really well insulated cabin. Very few squeaks and rattles for a car with high mileage. Hell, a new BMW G42 230i or G87 M2, the two that I drove recently, with a tiny fraction of the mileage, squeaked and rattled way more than this. That is a testament to Lexus build quality, if I've ever seen one. This really does feel like a proper luxury sedan. So little tire noise. It is actually really refined. Of course, no one is buying a GS430 to turn it into a track weapon or even a canyon car. But the fact that it can actually sort of hold its own in these conditions and still be a great, cheap, reliable luxury car with a V8, it's a pretty enticing package. If only they offered this car with a manual transmission, that would cement it as a highly desirable enthusiast luxury sedan. There we go. This thing builds speed pretty quickly. Do not sleep on the GS430. This has more than enough power and torque. The transmission is lazy and it won't let you select your own gear very easily. But for just passing other cars on the freeway, this gets the job done, and it sounds good while doing it. So like I said, oddball review, but oftentimes these are the ones that I get excited for because I have zero expectations, or I should say low expectations in the case of the GS430. So it's nice when I come away pleasantly surprised. So big shout out to William. Let me know what you think about this generation of Lexus GS. Is the 300 with the 2JZ naturally aspirated engine the one to get? Or do you prefer the V8 of the 430? What do you think about this general era of Lexus? They're so cheap, they've depreciated so heavily. You can pick up good examples for less than $10,000 all day long, whether it's a GS, an IS, or an LS, and they just stand up to the test of time so well. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments. A big shout out to Will once again, and I'll see you guys in the next one.